Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly present our spectacular show of podcast magic and imagination full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn Dave and David Dollar.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dave.
It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast. Welcome back to another exciting, magic-filled, pixie dust sprinkly episode of the Main Street Electrical Podcast. I am Dave, and this is Jen, and we are hosts here to talk a little bit about magic. We're going to talk about plane travel and the dumpster fire that is airline travel right now. We'll talk a little bit about magic bands. They were released today, the new ones, the Magic Band Plus, which is exciting. A whole new atmosphere into spending more money at Disney to get more things happening at the parks. Yay! Yay! Of course, we'll also talk a little bit about Marvel tonight. We got a friend of mine coming on, and we're going to discuss San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to nerd out for a minute, all the Marvel stuff that's coming. They had this big presentation on the stage, X-Men and the new Avengers and the new Avenger movies and Spider-Man and all this stuff. We'll talk about all that in a few minutes. But Jen, how did you Disney this week?
That is a really great question. And why did I not think of that before that? Like, wow, I'm prepared for this every single week. Oh, yeah, never mind. I got a great one. I Disney this week by getting all my paperwork submitted and finalizing my Adventures by Disney itinerary for the end of August.
You're going to Costa Rica, which
I'm going
is
to Costa Rica.
Exciting. That's really cool. So,
I'm really excited.
Awesome. So briefly, in a anywhere from 1 to 85-minute nutshell, Adventures by Disney. Remind our listeners what that is. And what, like, kind of an overview of what you're doing in Costa Rica. What's happening there?
Yeah. So Adventures by Disney is the Disney product that takes you around the world. No, you're not in a theme park. You're not going on roller coasters. Okay. This is, you're not meeting Mickey Mouse. This is literally the Disney name, but they are helping you to see different cultures, some of the amazing sights of the world, but with that whole Disney excellence that they have, they've put together literally an amazing product. So I've done a Rhine River cruise with them before. It is like a fully guided tour, but you have time on your own as well. They handle so most of the meals are included, like your activities are included. It's VIP access to everything. There's little Disney fun touches, but you don't go feeling like, again, like you're not just hugging Mickey Mouse. Okay. That's not what this is. Like we were in Switzerland and we were like in Switzerland, like we were in Germany. Whenever we did Italy, we were like in Italy. They have local experts, like people who speak the language, people who are really just taking you on those cultural events. And it's unique things that you really could only get through Adventures by Disney. So this time we're doing Costa Rica. It is a very adventure filled one. We're excited. So there's going to be whitewater rafting and zip lining and rainforests and animal sanctuaries and just really kind of exploring and going to a lot of the parts of Costa Rica because it's a very diverse country in terms of like climate and like, there's like a beachy coast, but then there's a rainforest as well. And there's like a volcano. So we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to be gone a week, we're actually leaving a day early to just sort of get acclimated, to the time change, and it's a long flight. So I hate starting my night tired. So we are very, very excited.
What I love about Adventures by Disney as well, and I've never been on one. The one I want to go to is the one that takes you to Antarctica.
Oh my gosh, that's too cold for me.
You go to the bottom of South America. You get on a Disney cruise ship. You kind of float through or whatever. And then they take some boats out there, some tenders out there to Antarctica, and you spend the day on the island, which is so cool. I mean, like,
that's so cool.
Nobody knows anybody who's been to Antarctica. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But the other thing I love about it is that it's so professional. Disney is a worldwide brand. Like, this is something that everybody knows. Yeah. It's like when a company knows they'll take Visa versus they're going to take some little rinky-dink whatever check. I mean, this isn't like Julio and Pietro straw market and city tours in a little carriage buggy or whatever down by the schoolyard. This is an actual massive worldwide company that has worked out with all these different countries and cities and villages, organizations, and is not only treating the land properly, but also making sure they're compensating the locals correctly, and also they're getting and they're safe, and it's safe, and they have ways to get into things that you probably couldn't get into. So if you were taking a tour of Costa Rica with Julio and Pedro and their city tours, you probably couldn't get into some of the restaurants that you're going to be able to get to because Disney is able to work with them, which I think is great. If I'm going to do a tour like this around Central America or Asia or something, I'm going to go Adventures by Disney because they kind of do most of the planning.
They do all the planning.
They do all the planning.
They
tell me where to go, what to do. They tell me what I can do, what I can't do. And it's like, great, I don't have to think about it, which is awesome. And of course, we at Upon a Start Travel and Concierge are happy to help you with your Adventures by Disney adventure, be it domestic, international, Caribbean, South American, or across the world. Just call us at info@uponastartravel.com. Always be selling. So Disney for me, I've been doing a series of little things this week, including getting my flights ready for February for the Princess Half Marathon. Southwest released their flights all the way up through March the 4th. So I hopped online early and got my flights in. Southwest flights go like that, so you got to get on it. So I'm a Southwest person, got my Southwest flights. I've gotten my park passes for not only for our October trip, but also our December trip. So those are set. We've got the October trip for the 40th for Epcot. Stephanie and I are going down together, and we'll be meeting you and Brady and Agent Kyla and quasi-producer Heather and all the whole teams down there together. Yeah. And, of course, we're going down for a big agency trip in December. So if I'm not tired of you by October, then 2 months later I get to see all of you again. And my family decided, hey, you know what? We're going to go, too. Any excuse to go, we'll go, too. So they're going to come, and they're going to do their own thing while I'm doing the thing with y'all. It's got all my trips planned. I mean, everything's just like I'm looking through my MDE, and it's like forever long because I'm like – Disney Experience app is like, oh, there's that trip, and there's that trip, and there's that. Oh my gosh, it's whatever. And
I know I've got several in there as well.
Crazy, it's insane. And all of a sudden, I'm gonna blink, and suddenly it's February, and I just got back from my February trip, and then we're gonna go again in March. And it's just it's one thing after the other. It's nuts. So I'm going to assume that we're not taking an agency trip to Jamaica or Cancun or Cuba or anything this summer. Not
right now. No, we're working on a few other things, but we'll. Lots of travel coming up, though, for Upon a Star. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited about that. So let's do just a little bit of news. All right. So the first thing is that we have been told by the Zach Ridley on Instagram. Of course, Zach Ridley is one of the most vocal and most prominent Imagineers out there. He's kind of the Epcot version of I don't know, an Imagineer in Magic Kingdom. I was going to say Josh because I always identify Josh with Magic Kingdom, but Josh is everywhere. So but he's out there all the time. So Zach Ridley is working on the Moana, inspired by Moana, the Journey of Water attraction. Okay. So he is sharing more details. This is Instagram from yesterday, actually. Today, I'm excited to share more details about our Journey of Water inspired by Moana. There's an image that they posted, and it's got this big circle of like there's mountains and there's oceans, and it's got like rain, stream, wetland, spring, land, lake, river, ocean, and sky.
It looks so cool.
So the image is a preview of the graphic style used throughout the attraction, inspired by the design and the visual language of Walt Disney Animation Studios' film Moana. The team has created original pieces that focus on the dynamic movement of water as it travels around the experience. Graphics like this will guide guests through the cycle of water in fun and engaging ways to tell the story of the vital link we share with water around the planet. We're going to have much more to share soon on the details the Imagineers are creating to bring this new attraction and life to world nature. So with this, like, I don't know, have you been to Universal when they had the I forget what the mythology show? I can't remember the name of it. It's like there's Hercules.
Oh, the Poseidon Adventure?
Poseidon Adventure.
Poseidon Adventure.
Something like that.
Or Poseidon's Fury?
Poseidon's Fury. And you walk through that tunnel with
Poseidon Adventure was a movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Poseidon Adventure was where the ship turned upside down. Yes, Gene Hackman, Joanne Woodward, ship turns upside down.
Of course you know this.
Whatever.
Of course you know this.
It's a good movie. It really is.
I mean, it is a good movie.
Anyway, so the Poseidon's Fury, and so you walk through that tunnel of water. Like, they have this water shooting up at such a high velocity, it makes this big circle, and you walk through the tunnel of water.
Yes.
I'm completely impressed by that. I'm blown away by that. So I can only imagine what Disney's going to do with their technology and water with the Moana attraction, what they're going to do with water. Because I go to Epcot and I see the water that's shooting from one little pillar to the other.
Oh, the little jumping in the imagination
water, or Splash Mountain. I'm like, that is so cool.
Like, that's fun.
This Moana attraction is going to blow me away. It's good. Yeah. Like, I have a low bar when it comes to water technique. I'm like, that's really cool.
David's already impressed.
Yeah,
he's like,
exactly. I'm impressed now. So. Do we know when it's going to open, Jen? Can you give us a date? Do you know for sure? Call Josh.
Oh yeah. Hang on, let me just look at my crystal ball. No, sadly, I do not know when it's going to open. I mean, my personal opinion, I would love to see it open next year. I mean, that'd be great. I don't know that it will, but maybe later next year.
I kind of think this is not something. This is not a ride per se. You're not.
No, right. It's.
I want to feel like this is more of a walkthrough, maybe.
It doesn't appear to be a ride. I mean, at all. So I mean, you have to have the things that function, but it's not. Right. With rides, you have to have a lot of testing, and you have for obvious reasons. For safety reasons. I don't.
All right. Well, I don't know that I feel like in saying that though, I feel like there's not going to be quite as much to put through the paces as there would be if if it was like an attraction like Guardians took 2 or 3 years, Tron's taking 2 or 3 years because
of course
they're building an entire roller coaster and they have to test it for months on end and things like that. With this, it's like the water has to work properly. Not saying that's not a big thing.
And who knows what other effects might be in there.
Exactly. And so it's just one of those things where I feel like this might be something that would open next year because it's coming along nicely. They're building it. I don't know.
Well, in that middle section, they are doing like you can actually see the progress now from the monorail, whereas for the longest time it was just like demo. You're like, yep, well, that building's still half there. But again, COVID slowed all that down and all of that stuff. Right. But now that all those buildings are down and now we have so like the Guardian stuff. So those walls are down. So it's, I do hope that we get the walls down because it's my favorite park. And I'm like done with the walls. Like I'm done with the walls.
I need the walls to come down because I'm tired of walking. I'm tired of walking extra half mile to go.
Literally to get from Test Track to Spaceship
or Coral Reef to Test Track. I want a straight shot. I don't want to walk around the world.
I miss just going like.
It's just,
right across.
Obnoxious.
It's so obnoxious.
Make it work.
I want to make it work, but I mean, I do that. That's going to be the first thing that opens, I believe, and then those other things. I don't know what all has even changed up in that upper area. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I do feel like that one might be the most involved. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean.
So, here's a question for you. Random question. This is actually kind of one of those questions out of nowhere, as I like to throw on you to make you think.
Okay, great.
So, let's say Epcot's done. They finished Epcot. Tron is now open at Magic Kingdom. So we're into 2024, maybe summer 2024. Most of the walls of Epcot have come down. Okay. Things are looking good. Okay. Tron's going gangbusters. Guardians is great. You're still waiting on Disco Inferno, even though you've done the ride 74 times. You're like,
fine with me.
I don't even like this song, and I just need to hear Disco Inferno. What does Disney do next? Like, do they circle back to another park now? Because Hollywood is done. Toy Story Land, Star Wars is done. Magic Kingdom. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Magic Kingdom is going to be next again, although they've done Tron. So
they've done Tron.
Do they then look at Animal Kingdom?
But I kind of feel like Animal Kingdom might be the one up because they had Pandora in 2017. Yep. But then let's look in Dino Land. They've taken away with Primeval World. Right. There's I feel like that's an area that could be zhuzhed up. I mean maybe I'm wrong. I feel like that there could be some expansion opportunities there. So I don't know that there'll be anything else in Hollywood unless they sort of dig into that IP a little bit more and retheme possibly Aerosmith, something along those lines.
Right. Like they go attraction by attraction versus building an entire new land.
Right. I don't know what new land, quote unquote, there might be. I mean, who knows? They could surprise us. Hollywood, I don't know how much more space. Quite honestly. Yeah. I mean,
well, I think there's more space though. Okay, so I'm not sure how long that McQueen attraction is going to last. I feel like
that I could.
Well,
see.
I say that, but it's kind of a big attraction. I mean, they have the building over there and everything, but most of it is screens.
I mean, yeah.
So I'm thinking through it, and I honestly, for the listeners, I have not thought through this until just this very second. So in just talking out loud, I'm thinking. Yes, there's a lot to it. It's a big building. You've got the McQueen in the middle, but that's one car, and the rest of it's screens.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that could be taken that fairly easily now that I think about it.
It could be. And you know
it's Disney. It's going to take 2 years to do it. Honestly,
okay, but hang on. We also have this, where the launch bay is. Yes, they're reopening launch bay, but how much, I don't know what that's going to do now because we have Galaxy's Edge. Is that going to be longer lasting? I mean, I know there's the dance party or whatever, but they could easily move that. And if they even want it, is Little Mermaid ever going to open? Wait, did Little Mermaid open back?
No, not yet.
No. So, I mean,
We're waiting on Mermaid. We're waiting on Enchanted Tales with Belle to reopen.
Yeah.
There's a couple restaurants we're still waiting to reopen.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it's just,
I didn't think Mermaid had reopened.
Yeah,
so
not
I mean,
yet. Not
there
yet. People waiting on it, but not yet.
There are opportunities, but I think we would more get that rather than an entirely new land right now. I think it's going to be more updating existing things or retheming.
They may add something to Pandora. I could see that.
That I could see with the new movies coming out because
Yep.
we're starting to see the previews. So
Right. So the new movie coming out with that, or they'll do some sort of. I could see them doing some sort of show or some sort of experience, small, like a fill-in something there
for sure.
Or Avatar: The Way of Water.
The Way of Water.
That's what it's called, Avatar: The Way of Water. That's the name of the movie.
Well, there you go.
I see the trailers are out now, so you can watch it on YouTube.
I saw half of the trailer yesterday when I saw all this. So
don't care about watching Avatar again, like the first one. I've seen it. I thought it was fine, but I'm still like, I kind of want to see this new movie. I don't know why. It's the music and it's just the whatever. And I mean, I'm like, this movie may be terrible. I kind of want to see it. So. This is where the trailer has worked because I didn't think that until I saw the trailer. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of want to see it now. So,
wow.
Moving on down to the boardwalk, of course, Walt Disney World's ESPN Club on Disney's boardwalk is now permanently closed.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Along with the bakery that's right next to it, and they're going to be putting into the ESPN shop, the Cake Bake Shop. By Gwendolyn Rogers. I don't know who Gwendolyn Rogers is, but apparently she does the Cake Bake Shop. Now, ESPN Club has been open since July 1996 and, of course, had TV and sporting events and things like that you could watch. Well, the Cake Bake Shop has 2 existing locations in Indianapolis, so now they're putting one into the boardwalk. And, of course, they're also going to be opening the new Boardwalk Deli, set to open later on this summer, so they're almost done with it. The Boardwalk Deli, inspired by the Northeast region, described as having a menu that takes you on a road trip of classic sweet and savory flavors. So really, our agent Kelly's going to get there and be like, okay, this is like home because, whatever. It's going to offer a range of beverages from sun-kissed fizz and prize fighter drinks to other different cakes and cupcakes and scones and Reubens and muffaladas and things like that. So it looks like this should be pretty good. I'm excited about this. I mean,
I think that's good.
I never planned to eat on the boardwalk, but it's one of those like as I'm walking by or in Epcot.
Yeah.
Are you hungry? I'm hungry. Let's go over here to the bakery real quick, get something to eat. Zip on over and zip right back into Epcot. So very, very cool. Okay, so finally, and this is something we want to talk about for just a second. Airline travel. It's a mess. It's an absolute disaster right now. For example, my dear wife and her mom and dad and sister, they're in Montana. They've been there for 8 days. It's been me and the kid for 8 days, which has been fine. We're good. We're all fine. I'm not saying being a single dad is easy for the week, but all is well. Things are good.
Right.
The house he's got all 10 fingers, all 10 toes. He's only broken 7 bones, 2 concussions, which is better than the 4 he had last year. The house we only lost 2 bedrooms to the fire, so we're good there. I'm just kidding. Everything is fine. He's been watching Thomas the Train all week, whatever. So the mom, Stephanie's supposed to come in last night, and she messaged me about halfway through and said there's a crack in the windshield, so they had to deboard the plane, which is better than finding a crack in the windshield at 30,000 feet going, hey, somehow or another we have a rock that hit our windshield at 30,000 feet. So, so they had to deboard the plane, and it was just a mess. They waited hours and hours and hours to try to get another flight. They couldn't get another flight. They spent the night at Bozeman, Montana. They're flying out. They're actually on their plane now. They're going to be going to Denver and then to Dallas and then to Birmingham. Their luggage is already in Birmingham. Wow. So they don't have any clothes. They have nothing. They're hoping to get to Denver and get a plane to Dallas. And if that doesn't get canceled, they'll spend the night. Whatever. It's been an entire mess.
Yeah.
She's done everything she could. She's called the right people. She called me. She was like, can you get on my computer? I need some passwords to Marriott. I need passwords to Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We got to get some stuff. I don't know if Southwest paid for anything. They should have, but I don't know because I don't know all the details of exactly what happened. But my question to you, Jen, because you are a very learned travel agent, you've been doing this about as long as I have, but you have a lot more experience, especially overseas stuff. I want to talk about air travel for just a second. What does a client do? Let's just say, starting with going to their vacation. Let's just say they're going to the Caribbean, somewhere in Jamaica, Cancun, or whatever. And that, and then maybe we'll talk about domestic in a second, like the Disney. Their flight gets delayed. Their flight gets canceled. They can't book until the next day. They can't even fly out to the next day. Jen, what can a person do? What can they do?
Well, first of all, great reason to use a travel professional because we're going to help you navigate it. And every situation is a little bit different. So that's the thing that you have to keep in mind. There is no formula. There are some basics though. So, I mean, if a flight gets delayed, honestly, there's not much you can do. Right now, we're definitely suggesting try to fly in the night before or take an earlier, like early flight, because those are less likely to be delayed because it's the first flight of the morning. But then, you know, you also have more opportunities to get out that day if that's the case, you know, and especially if you're like, okay, I have to be here by blah, like for a cruise or, you know, a tour or something specific, go in the night before, at least the night before. 2 nights before, even better, you know. But if it's a delay, you're just sort of at the mercy of, okay, the airlines. A lot of times it's going to be inconvenient. You're still going to get there, you know. The biggest inconvenience is if it makes you misconnect. So you have to make sure that on those connecting flights, you have plenty of time. Try not to schedule like a half hour. Like you want like an hour or more. There's no guarantee they're going to hold the plane if it's a short layover. You know, they might, but they very well might not. So you want to make sure that you have some buffer time there. And then, you know, travel insurance, because there may be situations where, you know, you might even call your travel agent, where you call us and we're like, all right, I'm going to get on the phone with the airlines. I'm going to see what I can do. And we work hard to change it, but there just legitimately may not be anything else out that we can, even on a different airline, that we can get you on until a day or two later. And that is where travel insurance is a godsend, because you can save your receipts, submit those to your travel insurance for reimbursement. I mean, you have to, of course, submit proof of the delays, etc. But that's what that is for. So you have an unexpected hotel expense. Guess what? You're saving it. You're going to submit it to travel insurance. Now, sometimes it is a situation where, you know, and I've had this happen to me. My flight was canceled. I'm like, I got to get out. I know that if the airline cancels the flight, they have to refund me. It's not a choice. You got to call and, you know, like they'll reaccommodate you, but they're like, you know, I'm going out now. So I found a flight that was leaving that same night. I paid more than I paid for my initial flight, but that's okay. I was prepared to do that. I knew I was getting a refund on my other one, and I wanted to get out that day. So I got out that day. So it's just sort of, it's being flexible and, you know, just being prepared. A lot of times also at an airport, if you do find a delay or, hey, I know I'm going to misconnect, your fastest way is, you can have maybe one of you get on the phone, go to the gate attendant. You might be waiting in a line because you're certainly not the only one in that situation.
Steph waited 2 hours in a line for her yesterday because it was a long line because you had 174 people trying to figure out what to do. So
try to figure out what to do. And you pack your patience. And I've had it where I'm like, Brady, get on the phone, you know, hand it to me if they, you know, pick up. I'm going to wait in this line, or vice versa, you know. And it just is what it is. They're going to try to accommodate you. They don't want it to happen either. So
no, they don't.
Don't, as tempting as it is, don't scream at the gate attendant. They didn't delay the flight.
Junk. Don't lose your stuff.
Do not lose.
It's one of those. I can see it where, you know, you've got a gate attendant, and passengers first. First of all, passengers, don't lose your stuff with the passengers. Just don't, because you're going to have some passengers that will be very calm and very collected, be like, okay, this sucks, let's just get through it, and other passengers that will lose their minds for whatever reason. You don't know what's going on with them. You'll have gate attendants that will do the same thing. And on one hand, it might be like they've been dealing with us all day. They're at their breaking point. 12 hours of being yelled at is going to get to anybody.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, they might just be a jerk. It might be something where they're just not a good person. It happens. Right. You've got to stay calm and collected as best as you possibly can. Stand firm. Don't let them walk over you. Don't let them like, well, no, we don't offer refunds. Okay, well, I waited 3 hours. Well, I know, but we don't offer a refund. Bye. If you believe you're entitled to one, have that conversation. Say, you know what, who else can I talk to? Can I talk to a manager?
And it might be where you need to call in to like
customer service. Can you give me a number? I'm going to call right now real quick to make sure that the number you give me is correct, blah, 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 so I don't have to wait again. So there's that. Also, make sure that, like, and you had a good point, don't schedule a flight with a layover of like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Schedule your flight. Like whenever I do any kind of travel, airline travel, which I only do airlines for all-inclusives. I don't like doing airlines for domestic at all. But when I do that, I make sure you have at least an hour layover, if not more. If it's a big airport like Dallas or Atlanta or something like that, I'm going to give you at least an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours if I can, because I want to make sure you have plenty of time.
Yep. And if you're coming back, and that's on the way down to an international destination.
And that's
if
what
you're coming back,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, An hour and a half is absolute minimum that I will do with an international connection. And I prefer closer to 3 hours, especially if it's in like Atlanta or Miami or something like that, because you have to clear customs, you have to get your luggage, you have to then recheck your luggage, and you have to go back into, so it can just really cause,
That's a good point. So coming back, just real briefly, a lot of the things we just said still work on the way back. But let's just say you're in Cancun and your flight gets canceled. Your flight gets delayed. Flight gets canceled. No, not another flight till the next day. Are the hotels going to spot you? Are the airlines going to spot you? How does that work? What do you do? What's your recourse?
It depends on the situation. In certain situations,
well, let me stop you there. Everything we're saying, guys, by the way, out there. Everything we're saying all depends on the situation. Yes. Everything is fact dependent. Everything is, as travel agents, we only know what you tell us. The gate attendant will only know what you tell them. So everything is fact dependent. So take what we're saying as knowledge and experience.
This is general.
Understand
this is like in general information.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up, but I wanted to make sure.
No, that's good. Like if it's a weather delay, airlines don't do anything.
Right.
Nothing. You're not getting a hotel voucher. You're not getting anything. Because I have been there like, oh, this is weather related. I'm like, interesting. Okay. Getting on my computer trying to book something for the night that has transportation near the airport. If there is a hotel connected to the airport, see if there's availability. There might be. There might not be.
Right.
If you're somewhere though, like an international destination, again, hopefully, like we will attempt to find you something if you are one of our clients. We're going to look and say, okay, what's near the hotel? We're going to try to get you transportation to get to that location and then get you back. We're going to try to find something near the airport. Sometimes you could go back to your original hotel if you know ahead of time, hey, my flight was canceled. I know I can't get back out till tomorrow. A lot of times you might need to move rooms, but the resorts can maybe accommodate you unless they're totally sold out. They usually try to be pretty good with that. But again, it's all dependent on the situation. And if it happens with like a layover, again, that's happened to me. I was flying back from Orlando. It was a situation where I had to have this random layover in DC. I hate laying over in DC, but that was literally my only choice. And I laid over in DC. I landed, flight was canceled, couldn't get out. No other flights, had to get out from the other DC airport the next day. So that's where after I talked to the gate attendant, I was frustrated. I was like, okay, you're not doing anything. Okay, weather, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And booked myself a hotel, Ubered to the hotel. And then,
Yeah, be aware also, and this is not, I'm not going to tell the whole world to not use these websites because every now and then they do have their purpose, especially if you have to do a last minute flight, you got to get out somewhere. Your sites like your Expedia, your Hotwire, your Kayak, things like that. There's the cheap flights. Find a cheap flight. Sometimes you have to have a cheap flight. You do it. I get it. But just be cautious. Read all the fine print. Read all the notices and everything because nothing more will tell you the importance of a travel agent like a worldwide pandemic that happened a couple of years ago when things were getting canceled, when Disney World shut down. The unthinkable happened when Disney World closed. Things like that.
That was crazy. I never thought that would happen.
And it's one of those things where, I heard so many people talk about how they spent 9, 10, 11, 12 hours on the phone, on hold, trying to get to Expedia or Hotwire to deal with their flights, to be told, nothing we can do. We lost the money. We have nothing or whatever. That's why you have a travel agent. Yeah. Or you book directly if you can. If it's just a family vacation, I would be careful about using. Just be cautious about using those kind of sites as well.
And I should point out, like I said, if they cancel the flight, they technically they do not have to give you a refund.
Right.
I'm going to correct myself a little bit. 9 times out of 10 it is, but over COVID, when everything shut down, that's a force majeure situation where they can't refund everybody. But you had a credit and you had a lot of time to use that credit. Of course, it's not like you could have rebooked to go anywhere anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
Slightly different situation.
Well, and that's what I know some of the cruise ships were doing that. Is they were giving out tons of credits, not knowing what the future held. And then I think everything kind of started opening back up before they realized it was going to open back up. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're giving out a lot of free cruises because
crap.
Boy. Last thing on the airplane travel, going to Disney. Your flight's been delayed. You're expecting to check in. Now you're not checking in until early the next morning. Or you're missing a dining reservation. Or your tickets are supposed to start on Monday, but you're not getting them until Monday afternoon now. How do you handle this if, let's just say you went crazy and didn't have a travel agent? How do you handle it if you're just somebody who's like, it's Sunday, our flight's not leaving until tomorrow morning now. We're already supposed to be at Pop Century or Grand Floridian, to have dinner. We're stuck. So
unfortunately, you have to make a phone call and you have to, tell Disney, hey, Disney, our flight got delayed. They're going to understand. I mean, like this happens. And so they're going to adjust your reservation. Typically, they tend to be pretty good to work with. Ultimately, you have some sort of travel protection where you can, make a claim, but, talk to the cast members, see what they can do. Hey, can we extend on the back end? They might be able to do that. I mean, they might not be able to do it, but they're going to see how they can help you. Hey, we have this dining reservation. Can you cancel? I mean, again, technically, if you're canceling the day of, there is, you're supposed to be charged a fee. But in a situation like this, they're usually pretty darn good about waiving it. But you do need to communicate. You need to let them know, hey, now we're not going to be in until 12:30 or 1 a.m. So don't cancel our room. Don't mark us as no-shows. We are showing up. We're going to be there.
So all that, that's not to say that Southwest or Delta American or United are going to be rude. But Disney's probably going to be working with you a little bit more than the airlines will in terms of, because it's understandable. This is a life thing. I mean, it happens. Mm-hmm. You can't, if you're in Michigan, they can't expect you to just hop in a car and drive down because your flight got delayed. I mean, so,
right.
And
sometimes people will do that. I mean,
sometimes people will do that. That's awesome. But,
or they'll drive to another airport. Like, well, there's an airport 4 hours away I can get a flight out of. I'll do that. I mean, sometimes.
And I do feel like, especially even when you're going home from Disney, and it's a little easier, I guess, if you're at Disney trying to go home versus if you're in, the Riviera Maya in Mexico going home, because you're talking about a completely different country. And, if it's, let's say, Christmas week and it's just busy and everything's sold out, you're going to be able to, even if you can't find a hotel on Disney property, they're going to work with you as best they can. Maybe find something at Disney Springs. I mean, you find somewhere to go, sleep at the airport, which I
was going to say, there's airports, Airport Hyatt, or other airports near the Hyatt, other hotels near the airport that you could use.
Right. Yeah. Or just call your travel agent. There you go.
Yeah.
So this past week was San Diego Comic-Con. Now, I don't know that Jen would have even known that was happening unless I was piping up in our chat going, hey, Jen, it's San Diego Comic-Con. And she's like,
I mean, fortunately, I'm friends with a nerd. So
exactly.
I find these things
and me
out.
too, right? Yeah. So San Diego Comic-Con is this big event that happens once a year over the summer. And this is the first time they've really had it in effect since 2020, honestly. They had 2019. They canceled it for 2020. And it's where all the studios come. And it used to be like a cosplay kind of thing. It used to be like an independent where you could just go and do comics and things like that. And like a comic show and cards and the collectibles. People come with costumes. Mm-hmm. Now it's this massive thing. It's almost like, for those people who know about movies, it's like what Sundance Film Festival used to be with all the independent films versus what it is now. Okay. Very commercialized, whatever. I would love to go to Comic-Con, but that's what it is. It's a massive event. A lot of studios come in and they do their presentations on the games that are coming, the movies that are coming, TV shows that are coming, and Disney is no different. Now, since D23 has really gotten going in the last 10 years or so, 15 years or so, they've kind of pulled back from doing massive presentations at Comic-Con. So the stuff that we're going to know from Disney, we're going to hear from D23, and we're going to have a great episode or two about D23 coming up in a couple of weeks, because that's when we're going to get what's coming for the parks, what's going to be announced, when Tron is going to open. I'm guessing that's what they're going to tell us when Tron's opening.
I would be surprised.
At least they'll
if
say, coming May 2024 or something like that.
Oh, I think they would do a season. I think they'll say like a season versus like a
summer
month.
or something. Yeah. So we'll get a lot of information on that, and I'll be on the socials. Just this is happening. That's happening, whatever. But of course, what they did do at Comic-Con for Disney is do Marvel. They hit Hall H, which is one of the big presentation halls, and they basically did a presentation of all the stuff coming up. Everything coming up. So to talk a little bit about that, to kind of give us an idea of what's happening in the Marvel Universe, what's happening with the Avengers. There's another Captain America movie. There's two more Avenger movies on the horizon. All of that, plus one of my favorite teams, the Fantastic Four, is coming. We're going to bring on one of my good friends. He's the co-host of the Deucecast Movie Show, my co-host of the movie show, Michael Nipp. You know him, Jen, and a lot of the people here have heard him talk about the movies and stuff. So we're bringing Mikey on, and we're going to talk about Comic-Con and Marvel while Jen snoozes, does her hair, and go ahead, nerds, do your thing. I'm going to look at pictures of the Grand Flow and get a pedicure while you're doing your thing, nerds. Let's bring Mikey on. And we are back here with my good friend, and Jen's good friend too, although they've never met. But in spirit, in the podcasting world, in the Disney world, we're all one community. Of course, my co-host of the Deucecast Movie Show, Michael. Hey, Mikey Nipp, how are you?
What is up, Dave? We're doing the
back.
Deucecast, right?
Right, exactly. So we're talking all the movies. We're going to reflect all the movies we've seen in the last month or so, and Jen will have nothing to contribute.
I have two to contribute. Thank you very much.
You did see Bolt. You saw Bolt.
And I saw Elvis.
That's right. You saw
Oh,
Elvis.
And I
wow.
saw
So-
Downton Abbey, so
Holy cow!
in
That's a lot
May.
of movies.
it's a lot of movies for me.
That's a lot of movies.
Downton Abbey in May. But yeah, with Bolt, we're on Skywalking Through Neverland. Their last week's
Yes.
episode, which
It was
was
a good
awesome,
Yeah.
with Sarah and Richard. That was a lot of fun talking about
Yeah, that
Bolt.
was.
But Michael, I kind of refer to Mikey as kind of our Nerdtainment reporter for the show.
Nerdtainment. I love
I'm
that.
also a nerd too, but he really kind of studies and then more in depth the dates and the releases and things like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about San Diego Comic-Con and the Marvel stage, which I said just before we came on here, I kind of led up to that, what was going on over there. But just to prime the audience, so everybody knows where we are in the Marvel universe, the whole Marvel, all the Marvel movies that have come out and as part of the MCU. The Avengers and that last Spider-Man, that was the end of Phase 3. So Phases 1, 2, and 3, so that Phase 3 is done. We are in the middle of Phase 4, and that includes all the shows, the Loki and the WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and all those shows. The movies that have come out, I think Thor and whatever other movies.
Eternals, Black Widow.
Nobody remembers Eternals, thankfully, because
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was part of it, so there you go. I
It's-
just learned
yeah.
something.
No, don't. It's bad. So nobody's remember Eternals anyway.
Spider-Man: No Way Home. Yeah.
But they released several big pieces of information, including the ending of Phase 4 and then into Phase 5. So I wanted to bring Mikey on to talk a little bit about what's coming, what Marvel fans can expect, what the hardcore and the casual fans like Jen, more than anything else, can expect. So, Mikey, Phase 5, what are we looking at? When does it start? What's happening?
I thought you were going to ask me how did I Disney this week.
You know what? That's a good question. I keep doing that. I've done that before.
Damn dollar.
Let me ask that question, Mikey. How did you Disney this week?
I scheduled a trip for Universal.
You did. Actually, you did, which is awesome. You know what, though? That counts.
No, but the cool thing, I did Disney. This week, my wife has never seen any of the Marvel films. So she agreed to start watching them with us. And so we're watching them, for me, for the first time in chronological order.
Nice.
I've never done the chronological order thing. So we watched Captain America, the first Avenger. Then we watched Captain Marvel. And then Iron Man 1 and 2. So we've seen 4 of them thus far, and the little interstitial things that they have in between.
Right.
The cool thing that I've never gotten to do before also is Disney Plus has what they call the IMAX enhanced versions.
Interesting.
So you have to switch to version, like you actually have to go click on it. And what it does is it basically gives you, and you don't have to have a 4K TV, you don't have to have a special anything. It gives you the appearance that you're seeing the IMAX scenes that you would have seen in the theater by expanding it to the full screen versus the black bars on the bottom and the top. So not every single movie has IMAX enhanced versions, but Captain Marvel did, and for some reason Iron Man did. So that's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun to watch those thus far, and so that's the first time I've ever done it, and I'm enjoying it. So that's how I've Disneyed so far. We're going through the MCU again. Well,
Now,
for my wife the first time, but
now I gotta ask Mikey because
Yes.
David says I need to watch them in release order.
oh well, no, yeah, that's normally what you would do, but
Okay.
I've never watched it in chronological order before, so I'm doing that for the first
And
time
by
ever.
chronological order, you mean the timeline, as in like
The
MCU
timeline order.
itself.
Yeah.
Which is interesting
Right.
because obviously the Captain America First Avenger takes place in the early part of last century.
Yes. Yeah.
Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s.
Yeah.
And there's actually like kind of a term called Fury's Big Week, because there's like 2 or 3 movies that technically take place all within the same like 10-day period. And on the MCU timeline, like the first Thor, I want to say maybe the second Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, they all take place for Nick Fury like in the same week and a half if you're looking at that Marvel timeline. It's kind of funny how that rolls out. So
for
so
sure.
yes, I'm glad you told us that Disney this week, because that's apropos of what we're talking about. That's great.
Of course.
And of course I think the MCU, the first 3 phases, will always be that's the original Star Wars trilogy of everybody. That's the one that everybody will reflect upon and be like, never got any better than that. That was the best, no matter what they did. The prequels and the sequels, that was the best. But of course, we are finishing Phase 4. I think Wakanda Forever, which is the Black Panther sequel, comes out at the end of the year, and that's the end of Phase 4. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we've got She-Hulk and Wakanda Forever as the last 2 things in Phase 4.
She-Hulk being the TV show on Disney Plus, which looks interesting.
Yeah.
It's Bruce Banner's cousin. She's an attorney, and somehow she gets gamma rayed as well. And so the trailer is out for that. It looks pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
How are 2 people gamma rayed? I've got questions.
Don't know. I
Just-
wasn't there. I
she
guess we'll have
just-
to find out and see.
Yeah.
So, but then of course that ends Phase 4 with Wakanda Forever. That'll be in the theaters, which nobody really knows exactly who the new Black Panther is going to be. Unfortunately, we lost Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
So
well, we
in-
kind of know, but I don't want to spoil it for
Well,
anybody.
don't spoil it. Don't spoil
Yeah.
it. But T'Challa in the movie, they didn't have they didn't recast him, so he will be replaced, or he will he is the king has passed in the upcoming movie. You know, for however they say it's happened. So that leads us, of course, into Phase 5, which I believe starts with the third Ant-Man,
That's right.
Quantumania.
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 That's right.
So, Mikey,
Okay.
talk to us a little bit about Phase 5. What to expect next year with the movies, the TV shows, kind of. There's
Man,
a lot happening.
I mean, there's a lot. There's been 12 things announced so far in Phase 5. I'm hearing that there's room for like a couple of other things that they haven't quite announced yet. There's like some slots they could theoretically fill in for Phase 5 that they haven't done so yet. But yeah, I mean, this particular 3-phase period, so Phase 4, Phase 5, and Phase 6, is called the Multiverse Saga.
Yes.
The multiverse was loosely introduced in Loki, kind of the concept of the multiverse. So if you watched Loki, there's this guy that kind of shows up in the last couple episodes called Kang. Kang the Conqueror. He is going to be the next big bad guy.
He's the Thanos of the next 3 phases.
He's the next Thanos of the next 3 phases. He's played by Jonathan Majors, who is like mostly been an indie actor. He's been in a bunch of indie films, but obviously this is the biggest thing the guy's done. He's a good actor, very good actor, and I look forward to seeing him as Kang. The deal with Kang and the multiverse is there's lots of different versions of Kang. The one that we saw in Loki is not the one that's necessarily going to be the big bad guy. The big bad guy is going to be really evil. This one that we saw in Loki was almost more like a court jester. He was sort of fun and quirky. The one that we're going to see in later films within and probably in Quantumania is a really bad evil guy who wants to destroy everything, basically. So yeah, we'll see that version of him introduced in Quantumania, which I'm very much looking forward to. Nice. We also get to see a new Cassie Lang, played by Catherine something.
Newton?
Yeah, Catherine Newton.
Yeah, and Cassie's his daughter. Cassie is Scott's daughter.
Cassie.
Scott being Paul Rudd. So
I know Paul Rudd.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, she is taking over the role from an actress that had the role in, I guess it would have been Infinity War.
Right.
He walked up to her door and knocked on the door, and it was an adult Cassie. I don't know if you remember that scene. And they hugged because it was super emotional because she thought her dad was dead.
Which is obviously a different actress than the little girl who played the daughter in the first 2 Ant-Man movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is Catherine Newton is an actress who, again, she's been in a bunch of smaller films, but the millennials love her, and so they thought we should probably bring her into the MCU. So she's been in some horror films and stuff that have been popular.
You might know her face out there if you see the
yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen her somewhere. Maybe
that'll be a big way to kick off Phase 5. And then there's so much.
Well, we'll
to
talk about the
about.
movies first. I mean, the big movies coming out: Quantumania, Guardians 3. We'll take these just for a second.
Okay.
Marvels, the Marvels, which we'll talk about, kind of explain that. Blade, and of course, I guess is Captain America: New World Order. Is that a Disney Plus or is that going to be a theatrical release?
That is a theatrical release.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Thunderbolts also is a theatrical.
Oh, you're right.
Release.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Guardians 3 comes out in May. We kind of know the Guardians story. Our guess is that they're going to go after Gamora. We don't know that for sure. This is likely going to be the last.
Well, yeah,
run
he's
of
looking for Gamora, but
Adam
Warlock is going to be. Yep. It's so hard. I don't want to spoil anything. So he's gonna be the bad guy. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
We're gonna think he's the bad guy, and Will Poulter, another guy that millennials love because he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Everybody knows Will Poulter's face.
Everybody knows his face. He is Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock was very briefly, not necessarily introduced, but alluded to in the very last scene of Guardians Volume 2. That gold lady, Elizabeth Debicki, was like, I'm going to create this thing. And
I remember that.
Yeah. So that shell is going to open and Adam Warlock will emerge. And he's a super powerful being. And there's some other things going on in that film. there's another bad guy going to be introduced in that film as
Okay.
well. I don't want to necessarily spoil anything though.
And then, of course, we've got the Marvels, which is really
Yes.
Captain Marvel 2, basically.
Yes,
With Miss Marvel from the summer show that we had this past summer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And Monica Rambeau as well, who
Mhm.
was introduced in WandaVision.
okay.
She was the black actress that was in WandaVision
Mhm.
that was pretty much throughout the series that ended up getting superpowers because she went through that force field
Right.
and she got superpowers. And so she's
And
going to be in that as well.
She was played as a young girl in the first Captain Marvel as
Yes.
the daughter of Brie Larson's best friend in the movie
Mhm.
before she went on to
Yeah.
become Captain Marvel
So
in
she's
space.
grown up now.
So now the daughter
Okay.
has grown up. Exactly.
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
was also featured in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Spoiler alert. I
I
believe that
wanna
was her
say
in the
that-
multiverse
Yeah.
with Reed Richards and whatever, and that
Yeah.
crazy thing happened. So that was also
What-
her character as well. So.
No.
Oh.
That's the mom.
That's the mom. Okay,
that
just
was
kidding.
the mom.
That's
yeah.
the mom. Just
So
kidding.
Monica
Don't listen to me.
Rambeau, I believe that's Tiana Paris is the actress's
Mhm.
name off the top of my head. I'm just pulling that off the top of my head.
Right.
And she was introduced. We saw her for the very first time in WandaVision.
Okay.
And she talked about her mom and stuff, and then she was a pretty major role in that series actually.
So that's in July, and of course in November
Yes.
we've got Blade, which is
Yes.
interesting how that's going to fit into the Marvel MCU as a whole, because Blade, of course, is we know that from the Wesley Snipes character in the '90s, the vampire hunter. This is
Wait,
Blade.
is it the same character?
It is the same character.
Yes, same
Yeah.
character. Now, obviously, I think they're going to take a completely different look at it. They're not going to be like just strictly vampires. I don't know
Yeah.
that.
That's a Marvel character. Yeah.
Marvel character.
I
yep.
literally had no idea.
I
Yeah,
can't say
yeah.
the guy's name. Mahershala Ali. Never say his name.
Mahershala Ali
That's
is
it.
the
Yeah, I
actor
never
who
say his
is
name correctly.
going to be Blade.
I was not appropriating his name. I promise. I just can't say it.
I would venture to say we will also see Kit Harington's Black Knight in this as well.
Okay.
That was a character introduced in Eternals. So I know a lot of people just have skipped over Eternals.
It's okay. to
He's
skip turns.
really the only good thing in that movie,
Mhm.
and he was in like 3 scenes. Kit Harington was in Game of Thrones. And
Okay.
he was like the main
Oh.
guy in Game of Thrones, basically. And he, at the very end of Eternals, there's a scene where he is opening a box and there's a sword in there, and we hear a voice off in the background that was Blade's voice talking to him, saying, "Are you sure you're ready for that?" Like,
Right.
and he's basically, it's Excalibur is what he's about to pull out of that box. Black Knight is a character that's been in and around the Marvel comics for
Right.
a while, and they are in a team in the Marvel comics. I don't know if this is going to happen in the MCU, but they're in a team called the Midnight Suns. It's like Blade, Black
Sounds
Knight.
like a
It's sort of
wrestling tag team.
yeah, it sounds like it's Blade, Black Knight, and a couple of other like darker characters
Right.
that are on like the fringe of anti-hero type characters.
Hmm.
They may eventually do a Midnight Sun Disney Plus series.
Right. It
but
depends on how well the characters are received. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
And of course, well, those are the movies that are next year. Let's hop to the series before we jump to the last 2 parts of Phase 5.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
The series we have: Secret Invasion, Echo,
Right.
Loki season 2, Ironheart,
Yep.
and Agatha, the Agatha character, Agatha the Coven of Chaos, which the Agatha is the breakout character from WandaVision, beside the witch that Wanda battled, and of course Daredevil making his return to this time officially the MCU, which I am super pumped about. I
And
think
that
that's-
is going to be 18 episodes.
yeah, and that's actually spring 2024.
The
so,
Daredevil series.
so,
That's a lot of episodes.
Just real briefly, can you touch on
Yes.
the Secret Invasion, Echo? What to expect?
Yeah,
of
yeah.
these kind of
Secret
who are
Invasion
these?
is going to be a Skrulls thing. So
Okay.
the concept with the Skrulls, obviously, we were introduced to a Skrull in Captain Marvel that Ben
Mhm.
Mendelsohn played.
Mhm.
The Skrulls have infiltrated planet Earth. There's good Skrulls and bad Skrulls. So I'm assuming, and Ben Mendelsohn is confirmed to be in this series. He's been established as a good Skrull.
Right.
And so there's going to be
Okay.
these bad Skrulls that are, and obviously they can
Are you
look like
taking
it.
notes, Jen?
They can look like anybody. And so, yeah, I know. And so they're going to
Huh?
be invading the
Right.
Earth, basically. And
Right.
so Ben Mendelsohn,
You're
along
saying
with-
scrolls. I'm picturing like
Yeah, not skulls.
Like scrolls.
Scroll,
Not scrolls, not like-
Oh,
Not,
scroll.
yeah, scroll.
Scroll.
SKRULLS. Scroll. Like combined
Like
scroll and
skull with-
and scroll.
oh.
Exactly. And then
Exactly.
Echo is a character
That
that
just
we've
blew
seen
my
before, but I can't remember who Echo
Yeah,
is.
Echo was introduced in Hawkeye. It's basically
The deaf character.
Kingpin
Yes.
adopted her after he had her father killed.
Okay.
And that's what she finds out about in Hawkeye. And I mean, I'm assuming your audience has watched all these shows, so I'm just like spoiling everything. But we find that out in Hawkeye. Like Echo finds out that Kingpin had her dad killed, and so the very last scene of Hawkeye is an off-screen gunshot because we think we see Echo shooting Kingpin.
Right.
They don't show the scene, but there's like you hear the gunshot, and it appears that Echo has shot Kingpin.
Hawkeye's a fabulous show too, Jen. If you haven't seen Hawkeye,
Hawkeye's
you
great.
would really like Hawkeye.
Oh, I would, because I love Hawkeye. So there is that.
It's such a great show. It was my favorite of the 4 last year.
So
but but I have problems, like if I know what's going to happen to a character, that I have a hard time. I'm like,
well, we didn't tell you what's happening to Hawkeye.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, but I know what
Hawkeye.
happens to Hawkeye, and I'm pissed. So
we don't know what happens
Do
to
you
Hawkeye.
know what happens to Hawkeye?
Nobody knows what's happened to
yeah,
Hawkeye.
I know at least a little bit what happens.
Well, I
and
don't
I'm
think you do. I don't think you do.
I
So
don't think you do.
that's
No.
Echo. Loki season 2.
And,
We know all
and
about
I
Loki.
did want to say
Go ahead,
that
sorry.
Daredevil and Kingpin are also going to be in Echo.
Yes, that'll be awesome. That'll be great.
Yeah, I did want to mention that.
And of course, real quick, Ironheart. Who is Ironheart? What is Ironheart?
That is a very new character to the Marvel Comics. It is a character. The character's name is Riri Williams. She essentially is using one of the Iron Man suits.
Ironheart. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So she is a female Iron Man. So she's Ironheart.
does she exist in the Marvel comics, or is this
yes,
like
yes, this is a Marvel Comics character, Riri Williams. I don't know much about the character in all honesty, but we'll see. She's younger, and so it'll have maybe the same feel as Miss Marvel did, sort of like a younger type skewing feel or whatever. So yeah, it could be good. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of this stuff. And of course, then they announced Phase 6, and they only announced 3 things for Phase 6. And Phase 6 starts at November 2024. So we're talking 2 years out. So who knows what will change by then? But they made the announcement that Fantastic Four is finally getting its MCU debut with Disney, and I'm so pumped. I love the Fantastic Four. They're one of my favorite teams in all of Marvel, and I've got tons of Fantastic Four comics. And so having Disney Marvel take over and do that property is so exciting to me, because the first 3 movies, the ones that came out in early 2000s with Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, and the one that came out in 2015 is an abomination of a film. It's awful.
Yeah, it is.
It's
bad.
just so bad.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this. We don't really know much about these characters at all. I mean, we know about the characters, but we don't know about the cast.
You don't know how they're going to fit in or anything.
Exactly. And so it's just they announced it, and then they announced 2 Avengers films.
Right.
One for May 2025, and then one for November 2025. So we're talking now.
That's ambitious.
Ambitious. Yeah. The Avengers: The Kang Dynasty and Avengers: Secret Wars. Secret Wars is a massive story from the comics. They've had 2 couple versions of it. One in the 80s, and it's one of those stories that happens every couple of years, where it encompasses probably a dozen or so different titles.
Right.
Like Spider-Man has 5 or 6 issues dedicated to it. And X-Men has a bunch of issues dedicated to it, and then they have their own, like Secret Wars issue 1, issue 2 through 12, and all the characters are in it. So that's a big deal. I'm not even going to venture to know what this one's going to be about. We have plenty of time to talk about that. Kang Dynasty, of course, referencing Kang. This is where I think
the bad guy.
I'm guessing it all comes into a head in Secret Wars.
Yeah, it's like it's going to be a 2-part thing. Basically, everything's going to end with that particular. Well, the multiverse saga will end with those 2 films, basically, and then whatever Phase 7 is going to be will be a whole new thing.
So, and I'm excited about all of this.
So you mentioned,
questions.
I got a question.
Questions, please.
Yeah.
You mentioned X-Men. I remember X-Men came out. I know Disney didn't do them.
Right.
X-Men doesn't exist anymore within the MCU right now, or
not right now, but they've started to hint it.
Yeah.
So in Miss Marvel, in the season finale, the word mutant was mentioned. So they are starting to slowly prepare people. And they
but
have.
Is Hugh Jackman going to be Wolverine?
Likely not.
Likely not. Although according to our real Deucecast expert, Garrison Rifen, they cannot put new actors in those roles until 2025. So if they were going to do any mutant stuff, that's why in Multiverse of Madness, you had Patrick
Stewart was
Stewart as Professor X.
Mhm.
They can use existing actors that have already played these roles,
But you
in
can't.
but you
Right.
can't recast yet.
Like
There's
if they
Okay.
were going
there's
to do
some
something with
weird
Storm,
contract thing.
either
They would
Halle
have
Berry
to
would have to
use
do it,
Halle
or
Berry.
they'd have to wait.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
don't know if they're going to call them X-Men. They may just call them mutants.
Mutants,
Because really, Disney didn't have the rights to them until a couple of years ago when they bought Fox outright.
Right,
Which is
right.
why they have Fantastic Four. And I would almost venture, and this is a complete guess out of left field, they'll introduce these characters all along, and then maybe early Phase 7, that's when they bring in the X-Men as a whole, like the
Okay.
entire team.
Yeah.
Start those because
Yeah.
we're missing Captain America. Well, we'll have Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie, but
Yeah,
Iron
and
Man,
you did forget to mention Captain America: New World
Oh
Order.
yeah, that's right. Captain America: New World Order, which will be Sam Wilson.
Sam
Anthony
Wilson,
Mackie is in that,
yeah.
so that's coming out in early.
He's the Winter
2025.
Soldier.
No, that's
No.
Falcon?
He was Falcon. Yeah.
He was
He's
Falcon.
Falcon.
Yeah.
He's Falcon. Taking over the Captain America mantle as
And then
as pointed at the
Thunderbolts
end-
as well
at the end of
is
the game.
gonna be a
Thunderbolts
thing.
as well. So that'll be Phase 4 ends with Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2 coming out at the end of the year.
Yes.
Phase 5 starts next year.
Yes.
With Ant-Man, Quantumanium, or is it Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumanium? I think it's
It's-
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumanium.
It's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
And so the
yeah.
movies we're going to get in 2023, which is next year.
Yes.
That one, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We're going to get Blade. We're going to get the Marvels.
Yes.
The shows will get Secret Invasion, Echo, Loki Season 2, and Ironheart. Heading into 2024, we're going to get the show Agatha, Coven of Coven of
Chaos.
Chaos. The Daredevil 18-episode series, which
long.
that's a long.
And it does
series.
have the subtitle "Born Again"
Yes, Born
because
Again,
they're reintroducing the character.
I looked that up.
basically.
That is a massive storyline for Daredevil. That's one of the
Big
most famous Daredevil
Daredevil.
storylines
Yeah.
ever in the comics. Okay.
Yep.
So later on in 2024, we get Captain America: The New World Order and Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
That leads us, of course, to Phase 6, which is right now only Fantastic Four and the 2 Avengers movies, The Kang Dynasty and Avengers: Secret Wars. Does that sound about right?
No, you're right. And D23 will have many more announcements about
Yes.
Phase 6.
Yep.
And it could even have, there's 1 or 2 spots that something could fit in Phase 5 as well. There's rumor that there's something else that they haven't shown people yet for Phase
Nice.
5. So,
Nice. Jen, any questions? Anything you need to know?
Any questions?
Were you
I
taking
mean-
notes on the blackboard there behind you?
so I did want to mention Thunderbolts because those are going to be characters that some of the characters that have already been introduced. So Thunderbolts, unfortunately, the actor William Hurt has passed away. So Thunderbolt Ross, I don't know if they're going to recast that, but if they don't, they could use the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character that was introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier. That is, she's sort of like,
She's
her
like a
name
Nick
is
Fury type character.
kind of like a Nick,
sorta.
a darker Nick,
Yeah.
like a more like nefarious Nick
Right.
Fury. So U.S. Agent is
Mhm.
probably going to be in Thunderbolts. That is Wyatt Russell's character that was also introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
Elena, which is of course
Black Widow's sister.
Black Widow's
Widow.
sister. She was also briefly in Hawkeye,
Mhm.
which was hilarious. She had a really funny.
Oh, she was so great. You're funny, Kate Bishop. You make me laugh.
Probably Ghost, if you remember the character
Patrick
from
Swayze character, right?
No, not Patrick
Okay,
Swayze.
just kidding.
The female character from the second
Yes,
Ant-Man
the
film,
one that kept disappearing and
the
reappearing.
one that kept just
Yep.
phasing in and out. That Ghost is probably. I would venture to say Baron Zemo will be back.
Okay.
Because he's kind of an anti-hero now.
Yep.
Basically the Thunderbolts are like anti-heroes.
Mhm.
That's their whole deal. They kind of do things that maybe not even Nick Fury would ask his people to do.
Right.
So they might do missions for the good, but maybe in a nefarious way. So, but and then there's going to be a couple of other characters that they may introduce earlier in Phase 5 that would end up being in Thunderbolts as well. So
Nice. Mikey, this has been perfect. This is exactly what we
Okay.
needed. This is a great
This is what
update.
you
This is exactly what we look for. We were going to ask about Star Wars, but they didn't make any Star Wars announcements.
they actually
So
didn't,
that'll
no.
be D23. We'll just talk
Yeah.
about Star Wars later because there's
Yeah.
a lot to get
Yeah.
to on that as well. So we'll bring you back on with our
I'm trying to think
Nerdtainment
if
feature.
Disney proper announced anything at San Diego.
I don't
Comic-
think
I
so.
don't
Like
think
nothing
so.
came out. Every time one of those big events happen, I scope Twitter religiously looking for updates and
Yeah.
pictures and trailers and things.
There
and
may
nothing
have been
popped
some
out, but-
National Treasure stuff.
Well, I think they'd done that trailer before, though. Like, we knew
Was
that
that
was coming
before?
already.
Okay.
They've been teasing National
Yeah,
Treasure
the show
coming
and
out for a
everything,
while.
so-
I
Yeah.
feel like I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that.
D23 will be the big one, and that's the one
Oh,
where
yeah.
everybody will be glued.
Yeah,
to their,
everybody.
Like,
Yeah,
That's in
there'll be a
September.
ton.
Jen, I know you don't check Twitter, but check Twitter for D23. Just keep looking and refreshing.
I'm
Well,
happy
listen,
to come
I
back
really-
on for D23.
Yeah, we'll have Mikey
Well,
back
we'll
on.
have
for that,
yeah,
too.
we'll have to have you
We'll
back
do a
on
whole
for that.
episode on that. So
Yeah, for sure. We'll need to. 'cause
That'll be
that's-
in September.
there's a
It's
lot.
crazy how close these are. Like San Diego
Yeah.
Comic-Con
They
and
really
D23,
are.
pretty close, and a lot of
Yeah.
news is going to be coming. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
cool. Mikey, thank you very much,
Yes.
and we will
Thank you.
catch you next time. All right, so Jen, are you clear on everything? Do you know what's going on? Do you have
Crystal.
your notepad in front of you and everything? There's a lot. There's a lot to it. And it's
I don't-
weird because 5 is happening in 2023 and 2024, and 6 is happening in 2025 and 2026. And you've got Black Panther 2 and Quantumanium and Ant-Man 3 happening with Phase 4. And it's just like we're finishing Phase 4. It's just and it's late, and my numbers.
There's a lot,
know,
and I haven't
yeah.
seen half of them anyway.
Yeah,
so.
and so just to update, my wife did get home, as I mentioned in the show earlier. She was stuck in Bozeman, Montana overnight, but she is now sitting on the couch eating pistachios, waiting for me to shut up so she could turn the TV on for the first time in 8 days. She was like, I got shows to catch up on. You guys wind it down, folks. Come on, it's late.
Right?
And so thank you very much. This is for you guys listening. I hope you guys have enjoyed our little excursion into nerddom, which we like to do sometimes. Jen, your next trip is, you got the ABD trip mentioning.
Yes.
Is coming up. Is that your next Disney official trip coming up?
That is my next official trip, period. Like, I'm not
Okay,
going anywhere
nice.
else between, yeah.
Nice. Until they call you and be like, hey, Jen, come to the parks for 3 days. And you're like,
Sure, why not?
Twist my arm. Jen, where can we follow you on all the socials?
At Upon a Star Jen, and my personal Instagram is at Jen_Novotny.
Perfect. Find me at The Magic on a Dollar on Instagram. Find me at Magic on a Dollar and Disney on a Dollar on Facebook. And I'd love for you guys to follow me on Instagram because I'm trying to get to 700 followers. I'm still very bitter about Facebook shutting me down a few years ago, and it was so close to 1,000. I'm still building back, and I'm getting close to 700. So y'all come follow me over there, and I'll keep you entertained. Of course, find the show at themsepodcast.com is our website. You can find us, of course, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and all the usual type places. And of course, uponastartravel.com. That's our home agency. Jen owns it. I work there. It's all kinds of good times. Yeah. So, Jen, thank you very much. Go get some sleep because it's been late and you've had a long week. And until then, folks, don't forget to thank your marvelous Phoenicians.
Thank you for listening to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the MSE Podcast, or visit our website at themsepodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe, and may all your wishes come true.